Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cutting Edge Curriculum February webinar. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon as we discuss our horticulture library. Today, we'll show you an overview of how the horticulture library is organized. We'll take you through a sample lesson, which follows the 5E inquiry-based model. You'll see examples of activities, a unit plan, our signature e-unit, and guided notes. We do want to remind you all that this webinar is being recorded. We will also be monitoring the chat. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them there. We'll start with some short introductions. My name is Callie Shorefite, and I am the marketing manager for Cutting Edge Curriculum. Mindy?
I am Mindy Nichols, and I am the business manager, and I process orders, send out quotes, as well as answer questions regarding the website. So nice to meet you all.
And I'm Lindy Coker, and I serve as executive director. I'm happy to be with all of you today. We're going to go ahead and get started.
Yes, thank you. I will start here on the Cutting Edge Curriculum website. Here is where you can find some recent news updates regarding Cutting Edge Curriculum and MyCart. You can find more information here about our grants that we have available for pre-service teachers and our scholarship that is now available until March 15th for all current Ag Ed juniors who are looking to pursue a teaching career. I'm going to navigate to the MyCart website where I have pulled up a compiled list here of all our available lessons and libraries. If you were to look at the horticulture library, for instance, down here, if you expand the list, you'll be able to see that it's broken down into units, then problem areas, and then lessons. Unit A typically serves as the introductory unit for almost all of our libraries, but Unit B and C, as you can see, they cover more of the plant science components of horticulture. Unit D, as I scroll, you'll see covers more soil science. Unit E gets into integrated pest management. And then we have Unit F here, which is quite lengthy. This is all about floriculture. So this is perfect if you are teaching a floriculture or floral design class. There are 14 lessons solely on floral design. These are filled with labs and activities that really do cover all areas of floriculture or floral design, such as running a business, understanding where flowers are sourced, and of course, labs to practice making arrangements and really understanding the principles of design. Unit G is where we are going to be pulling an example from today. So I'm going to pass it over to Lindy as she takes us through the lesson G3.3, which is on landscape paving.
All right, thank you, Callie. First, we'll start with the unit. Basically, this is just the unit outline. It just kind of gives you as an instructor, just kind of a snapshot of the components of this entire unit. Unit G, the landscape installation part of it. It has the essential questions for each of the lessons, approximate time that the unit's going to take you to get through. It's also going to take you through the lesson titles, and then on the next page, it gets into what is considered learning targets, and then also your success criteria, and then any sort of standard alignment. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and open up the lesson plan itself that we're going to focus on today, which is lesson G3.3. And again, this is just our code that we use for G3.3. This is the third lesson in the unit G3, titled Landscape Paving. And the instructional time on this is 3 days. Lab time is 1 day. There are no appropriate in next generation science standards that are aligned to this particular lesson. We do have one specific Common Core, but I do want to draw your attention to the national AF&R standards. Now, these are the updated standards. So I'm going to have Callie open up the quick document that I shared with her earlier today. This is the newest of the AF&R standards, and we have diligently worked to make sure that we update our lesson plans to fit the newest standards. So as she scrolls, she's going to try to find the fourth area of the power structure technical systems. And so she's going to get to 04, 03, 01A. And here we are. So 04, 03, then we find 01A. And so this is actually where these standards come from. And again, these are all driven by the council, and it gives us guidelines as instructors of what should be appropriate for these sorts of either classes or topic areas. So let's go back to the lesson. And at this point in time, we're going to cover the essential question: how are paving materials installed in a landscape? So really that is our goal by the end of the time we get through this lesson. We have some specific student learning objectives that we can post on the overhead or on our whiteboard, again, just to give us focus of what we're teaching. All of these horticulture lessons are structured in a 5E format. So 5 E's. From a lesson standpoint, the first E is engaging. The other instructional material that comes with the subscription is a PowerPoint for all of the lessons. So at this point, I'm going to have Callie pull up the particular PowerPoint for this particular lesson. And again, these are created so that you can edit as you see fit as you work through this particular lesson. The engaging part does ask for students if they have a patio or a deck at home. And we're going to ask about what is the surface material of a patio or of a deck. Now, back when I was teaching, if I were to get involved in this particular topic area, before I even ask this question, I'm actually going to have the students look at the flooring that they're sitting in the room in the classroom. Typically, you'll have tile. Sometimes you may be fortunate to have carpet, but you actually have the students really kind of understand what is the material on the floor. Sometimes I'll ask them, what's the material on the walls? What's your ceiling? So they understand that, yes, this is the room components. Now let's go outside. Same type of a concept when you're thinking about landscape. You want to think about how you're going to construct a room, because a lot of times in our landscape, we want them to feel like I'm living in a space. So outside, what is going to be my flooring material? What is going to be some of my wall material? And then again, what could be my ceiling? Is it the sky? Is it the oak tree that's coming over as a shade? Again, think about those types of materials. So now we come back after you have this conversation with your students, we come back to the lesson, and we're going to assign the first activity, which is surface materials. Now, this is a very simple activity. 2 questions. I would possibly put students in groups, quickly do it, give them a time, maybe a couple minutes, be able to complete this, and we're ready to move on. But again, this allows for the students to specifically identify surface materials. Now, what could be some of those? Soil, gravel, grass, brick, pavers. Think of all the things that you could possibly use as a floor. So let's go back to the top. You'll also see in all of your teacher materials, you're going to be able to see answer keys. You're also going to be able to see like some teacher specific notes, some helpful hints as we go through the actual lesson. The next part of the lesson is the second E, which is called exploring. As you can see, the color changes. We're now in purple. Under the exploring, this is really the heart of the lesson. First thing that you want to do is you want to ask those students, what are some very specific questions that you want to be able to ask about landscape paving? Again, how do I install? How do you continue to probe those students to think about what are those key questions? Tie it back to those learning standards that we just covered. You display those questions on the front of the board when you get started, and maybe that becomes your goal, your focus. Now we're going to assign the corresponding E-unit. So an E-unit is a signature instructional material that Cutting Edge Curriculum, MyCart, continues to have for every lesson. So it's kind of like your own textbook. It looks like a chapter out of a textbook, and it is written for the students. You have an opening paragraph. You have the key objective of the reading here, key terms, and then we get into the actual content of this subject. So you'll see here, paving for the residential landscape. That is our main header. Then we break it up into different sections. And each of these sections is going to correspond with the student learning objectives of the actual lesson. So if we remember, the very first student learning objective was describe materials used for paving. The header is paving materials. So now this content that the students can read and you can reference back as well is going through the different materials used for paving. Now, your PowerPoint will also cover a lot of these items, but let's say, for instance, you're going to be gone for the day and you don't want your students to miss a beat. The E-unit serve as a really good opportunity for the students to be able to read. Also, you'll see as you work through the E-unit, the vocabulary terms are highlighted in red, and they are there with their definitions. And they also correspond with what is also found in the lesson plan. You'll see graphics, you'll see pictures, captions. If you go back up one page real quick, Callie, we do have a side margin. Every E-unit is going to have somewhat of an extra piece that's going to be a side margin. So again, very traditional type of a feel of an actual textbook. You can also assign E-units to students when you put students into the MyCart system. They can utilize that as an assignment. Then as you get towards the end of this particular E-unit, you will have a summary. You will also have an expanding your knowledge. Now, this is basically a call out to the student. So say, for instance, that they've read it, they're interested in this particular subject. Maybe it's a project they want to do at their own home. This allows for the students to do something extra. Checking your knowledge is the final component of the E-unit. This is typically broken up into 3 parts, and it can allow for you to serve, again, as an assignment to your students or as an evaluation. So that is the E-unit. As we go back to the lesson and the students have read the E-unit, now we're going to conduct the lab activity, concrete installation. Now, there are a few additional videos that it's mentioned in the teacher part of the lesson plan, but that is completely up to you if you want to share those. This here is going to take you through just, again, a very simple activity for the students after they've read the E-unit. They're going to work with a partner, and they are going to answer the following questions. Now, this could be a class project. The students could complete the worksheets together. You can also work with your school administration to look for permission, location, details of either a concrete installation. And then again, your students should be able to write up a plan for installation of a concrete walkway. All right, any other extensions from that particular activity? You can also have a class project of constructing some stepping stones, and then also allow for that to be part of a plant sale. The third E of the actual lesson plan is called explaining. And as I mentioned in the E-unit, this is your vocabulary, your actual content of the lesson, so that you want your students to be able to understand that vocabulary. You can, again, continue with the class discussion on the processes used to install landscape paving. You can also return to the key questions that you had asked at the beginning of exploring to be sure that the students can start to answer those. And then the next activity is going to be material size for deck construction. Now we get into some math. So you do have some tables here that you're going to be able to have the students use to answer the problems. And so then on the next page, you will have some problems for the students to be able to conduct. They're going to refer back to those tables to determine the size of the deck beams and the post and the maximum length of joint spans. So again, you're going to utilize those tables at the top to be able for the students to come up with those answers. If you go back to the teacher portion, you will always have the answers for you. And then you can also practice going through some of those, discovering on the table of where you found those answers. The next piece and the fourth E is called elaborating. Now, this is supposed to be the point of the lesson where you are going to link it to a career. This is supposed to be the real world component of the lesson plan. So elaborating, you can have students look at the career profiles that are posted on the MyCart website. The link is there for you to utilize. And then you have an activity. It's material cost for a patio. So we have a little bit more math, and these are going to be questions on this worksheet, really kind of going through material cost. And I think this is a really great end to this particular topic area, because the students do have to realize that eventually you have to come up with a material list and costs are associated. So these are really great questions for students to just navigate as they think about a particular landscape paver project. The last E is evaluate. And here on the teacher portion, you're going to see the answers to the checking your knowledge section found in the E unit. And then you're also going to be able to see the answers to the essay questions, which are found at the very end of the lesson. And there are 5 questions for the students to be able to work together or as individuals as they think about the content that they were able to learn in this particular lesson. There is another component of the horticulture library that I think is also extremely valuable, and that is guided notes. Guided notes can be found in our My Community section of the site, and teachers have access to these pre-made guided notes for the entire horticulture library. So that means every lesson in the horticulture library has a guided note. Every lesson in the horticulture library has an E-unit, has a PowerPoint, has quiz questions. It's a really great package for the whole thing of horticulture. So this particular one on landscape paving, guided notes, it's 14 pages long. It does go through every little component of the E-unit so that the students can really take away all of the subject matter materials from the E-unit, as well as they work through the activities in the lesson plan. And then Callie, I did have a quick question. Were you able to pull the questions?
I do not have them in front of me, but do you want to mention an additional evaluation component that we have available on our website?
Is the quiz questions. So when you add students into the MyCart system, you can also utilize the pre-made quiz questions of every lesson. So those will be multiple choice questions already made for you, and you can utilize those as you see fit. So with that, that is an example of our horticulture lesson. If you have any questions about other horticulture topic areas, in a nutshell, that's what they're going to look like. And we're happy that you are with us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, you see that big gold questions tab on our website. If you click on that, that will actually go to all 3 of us, and whoever can get to you the quickest will reply and help you in any way that you need. You can put in a question there, a phone number that says call me, and we are happy to respond to you. So I think that's it for today.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.